Finally, a whale. As fall starts to close in, we're making progress on the cabins here, and we made quite a bit of headway on the deck. Hi, today on Alaska Bush Carpenters, we're going to talk about stairs. I'm going to show you the way that I do it. This seems to be what works for me. I hope you enjoy. So for this, you're going to need to use a little bit of math. You're going to want to determine where you want your landing to be, which we've decided we want this landing to be as far out toward the end of the deck as possible. And we want to make the stairs nice and gradual. So we're going to choose between a 6-inch and a 6.5-inch rise, and that's going to give us a nice gradual stair going up. Now what I like to do is make my landing and have a little bit of a range of where we want to be. Now we've determined from the plumb bob going down, based on having a 6-inch rise, we're going to need 13 steps, and it's going to come out 156 inches. So we've measured out 156 inches, made a mark, used our plumb bob to measure down and find exactly where the front of our last step is going to be. And then we can go ahead and figure out where our landing is going to be. So then we measure down with a 6-inch rise over 13 steps. That gives us our run, which ended up being 11 inches. So we measured over 13 times 11, got the front of our final step, and we were able to determine where to make our post, our beam here for our landing pad, and what height to make it. So then we went ahead and measured down 13 steps times 6, which is our rise. So that gives us our height, and we determined what the height needed to be here. So once you get that, you kind of have a rough start. Now the best way to do this is get your board up here, and just kind of lay it where you're thinking it's going to go. And what you want to remember is the key is to have every step as close to being the same as possible for safety reasons. That's what code requires. If you can't get that quite right, you can take your last step and make your last step the one that's different. You always want your last step to either be the same height or a little shorter. So then now that you got your board in place on the bottom, you just come up here to your ledger, get your level in there. You want to make it nice and plumb. Make a mark. Okay. You're going to take your carpenter's square, and you're going to find your run, which is going to be 11 inches, and your rise is 6 inches, and you're going to follow that parallel line until you hit 11 inches here, and you're going to make a mark. That's your top of your first step. Measure down to the top of your ledger to where your first step is. That's 6 3/4. So now you need to know. Now you know you need to take off 6 3/4 at the bottom, and then this is going to go straight down right into place. So now we're down here at the bottom. We're going to measure up 6 3/4. Oh, sorry, 6 3/4. Then we're going to take that 6 3/4. Make a level mark. And then we know this is where our first step is. So now we go back up and make all of our marks all the way down. and then make sure that our last step is 6 inches, as close to 6 inches as possible. All right, well, we drew our pattern out and it all was good. The bottom step is going to be right almost exactly the same as the rest of the steps, 6 inches. So we can go ahead and cut the rest of them off of this pattern. Okay, now something that I like to do here, something that was taught to me, and it just seems to make sense, is the way I do where it connects here is a little bird's mouth. You cut the bottom and you leave a little bit on the bottom of the stringer, and it kind of hugs into here. So it wants to push out, but it can't, and it wants to go down, but it can't. All right, so the first thing you want to do is check out your material, make sure that there's no cracks. This one's got a nice crack check in the end. That can be disastrous for your stringers. So you want to make sure that you identify those and just lay your pattern out to avoid them. It's important that your pattern doesn't move after you set it on there and start making your marks. So I go ahead and just tack it down with a screw or two. Once you've got your pattern laid out, go ahead and make marks nice and liberally. Oh, it's going good. Just laying out the stairs, making a little video. How's it going over there? More often than not, your lines don't come out perfectly straight. Your pattern, the cut, sometimes is a little wavy. So it's sometimes hard to find and follow a straight line. So sometimes it's good to come back with a straight edge and just kind of clean up your lines. Take out any waves, make them super dark. Now this is a good time to make any adjustments, like on this little bird's mouth. On the first step, I was adjusting it and I cut it too small. So the one I'm gonna have to shim. So I'm making up for that on these other two. I'm cutting them about an 1/8 inch shorter so they're nice and tight. All right, now I want to take the time to make a little video here, a little segment about making straight cuts. When you're coming into your cut here, a lot of people will just start with the saw flat, with the foot flat on the board, and just go in. Problem is if you're just a little bit of a degree off, you're going to be fighting that tool left and right and binding up your blade as you're in the material. So what I like to do is take your little notch right here, figure out if you're taking the line, if you're going to the left or the right of the line, and adjust accordingly. This little notch, if you put it on the center of the line, that's where the center of your blade is going to be lined up. So what I like to do is come in with the tool. You have this flat surface on the front, so you can line it up. Figure out where your blade's going to go, line up your blade on the starting part of the mark, and then line up your little notch. And that'll give you a kind of a line, a straight line to start with. And then go ahead and take the tool without the blade all the way in. That way you can adjust as you get down and then plunge your saw down into your line. So here we go, watch. And that's how you make nice, perfect straight cuts and you don't veer. Another thing that's worth a mention is before you cut stringers, stringers are one of those things you want as perfect as possible. The best thing you can do, I know you're gonna want to build your stairs and you're gonna want to jump right into it, but take the time to replace your blade on your skill saw. Brand new blade, perfect straight line.